All right, so as we open up looking at the understanding of how to complete the report and how to include the tenancy in the report. Let's see. Let's take a look right now at a sample deed. So now this deed doesn't have a tenancy in it, right? But it has meets and bounds, and we've been talking about meets and bounds. You see where the grantor's name is listed, and I want you to make sure you understand that language. See, that language is going to be vital to your understanding. So I know we've read these before, and I know you think it's elementary, but we're going to do it anyway because you're going to have an exam on all of this information. So remember, we're teaching you how to service your client well as an abstractor, okay? Yeah, and remember I said that the name of the game is to make sure that you're making everything easy for that title examiner. Yeah, you want to set things up so that the title examiner has sufficient information that's chronologized, that makes sense, so that they're able to swiftly examine that report, get the title cleared, get the commitment done, and get it to their client right away. All right. So on the document, we see that this is a warranty deed, meaning that it warrants that the proper interest is being conveyed in the property. It shows the state, it shows the county that's there. All right. In the state of Alabama, you have to be a licensed attorney or paralegal in order to prepare a warranty deed. And even if you are a paralegal, it still needs to be signed by the attorney. All right. That's to prepare documents such as a warranty deed and other land record documents that are going to be recorded of record. All right. You also need to list the name of the individual that prepared the document and their address. Yeah. All right. So when we're looking at the grantor's name, you see the full name of the grantor is there, and then they've got husband and wife for the grantor. It shows the consideration of $10. So, we said that we only show consideration when it's valuable consideration in excess of $1,000. Then we list that on our report. It shows that cash in hand was paid by the purchaser. It shows the purchaser's name or the buyer's name, or in this case, the grantee's name. That's the individual that's receiving title. The grantor is the individual that's conveying the title. Right? All right. Then it goes on to give the legal description with all of the cardinal calls. In the previous chapter, we went through, earlier in this chapter also, we went through understanding that legal description. You need to go over that again. Make sure you study that parcel grid. Very, very important. And you notice that this is taking you back to the point of beginning. It starts you at a particular point, then it's going to take you back to that point of beginning at the very end of the legal description. In some cases, it'll give you the total amount of acreage, and in some cases, it won't. All of these cardinal calls are important. And if you're ever typing a report, make sure you capitalize the cardinal calls. So if they abbreviate north, then you can abbreviate it, but it's going to be a capital N. Does that make sense? Yeah. Northwest quarter, those are going to be capitalized. All right. Always capitalize the cardinal calls. South, this amount of feet, west, amount of feet. Capitalize the south, the west, every direction in that cardinal call. Capitalize. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the software that we recommend that you study on, so you'll be prepared for the exam that we give, because you'll need to know how to plot this. But there's software that we recommend and that we teach you from to show you how to plot that legal description. All right, so we see that one has no tenancy. Now let's go to the other one. Go. Now, when we look at the other one, we see the same information there. We see the grantor, who is a corporation, all right? And then it shows the grantees And when we look at the grantees, we see married to each other. You want to list that because that's their marital status. And then right after the word grantee, we see the tenancy as tenants in common with equal rights and interests during the period of their concurrent lives, with contingent remainders and right of reversion. I'm using a magnifying glass. right of reversion to the survivor of them. Okay. All right. So what you would type on your report would be as tenants in common. As tenants in common, because automatically tenants in common means with equal rights. So you would say as tenants in common. That would be the tenancy that you would type into your report. All right. Okay, guys, I wanted to go over that. Now, we want to look further into typing up this report, okay? All right. I'm opening up my report now. Get this report open. All right, well, it's not opening, but that doesn't mean I can't go on with you guys. All right, so when we talk about tenancy, once again, it's specifying the ownership type. How are they going to hold title to this property? The tenancy structure defines how the property rights are distributed among multiple owners. The deed has to be clear when it indicates the type of tenancy, because that's going to affect the legal rights of the survivorship and also property division in some cases, and also the sale or the inheritance of the property. So common forms of tenancy include joint tenants. That's ownership that's equally shared among two or more parties with the right of survivorship, meaning that one survives the other, the death of the other. Meaning that if one of the owners pass away, their interest automatically transfers to the surviving co-owner. Now, another tenancy, and remember, these are used in different states, and in some states, certain tenancies are not allowed, all right, not accepted. Tenancy in common. Each owner holds an individual divisible interest in the property. So it doesn't automatically transfer upon death. Why? Because each one of them holds an individual divisible interest in the property. Right. They're not holding it jointly. All right. So that means that it's not going to automatically transfer upon death. Instead, it passes to the heirs or to the beneficiaries. Right. But if it's a joint tenancy, there's equal ownership there, and one survives the other, has the right of survivorship. That means that ownership, that vested interest, automatically transfers to the surviving co-owner. Tenancy by entirety. That's a specialized form of joint ownership reserved for married couples, offering protection against individual creditors. So understanding this type of tenancy is crucial in determining rights of occupancy, transfer, and legal implications that follow an owner's passing or sale of interest. And that's tenancy by entirety. And remember, every state will not allow the usage of each one of these tenancies, particularly tenancy by entirety. And that's because it carries with it a certain amount of protection against individual creditors. And that's why it's not allowed in every state. So you have to check with your particular state and county to confirm whether or not they allow tenancy by entirety. All right. That's if you're an individual that's having a deed prepared, or if you just want to understand the deed, and if you're working on the title of the deed. But it depends on why you've been hired to do the title. That's why you just always want to make sure you list the tenancy. It's very important. All right. So I think I've driven that point home So we're going to go on. I did want to say this one thing, and that is, let's see. Here we go. Just want to make sure of this. Let's say you've got multiple mortgages or documents that are recorded around the same time, maybe the same day, and they use the date signed as the document. So in a case like that, you want to use the date signed as the document's date for an accurate sequencing. Because sometimes, I don't know, if documents are recorded around the same time, I've seen counties actually record the mortgage first and then the deed. So to solve this information, to solve this issue, just use the date that the document was signed, and that will help you to set up the documentation with accurate sequencing. Okay? So when there are multiple documents or multiple mortgages that are being recorded around the same time, use the date signed as the document date. That'll help you maintain the sequence. This way you can kind of ensure that the chronological order is preserved somewhat. It prevents discrepancies in title examinations. Additionally, referencing the book and page or instrument numbering and sequencing is essential for proper indexing with public records. But here's the problem. Sometimes that gets all wacky. I made up a word. And that's why you've got to make sure that you keep in mind and bear in mind the date that the document was signed. Yeah, these identifiers can provide a structured method for tracking documents and allowing title officers and examiners to verify priority and authentication. So you say she is awfully concerned about title examiners. Yes, well, by profession, that is what I do for a living. Yeah, I'm an abstractor, but I'm also a licensed title agent. And for my job, I'm a title examiner. Hello and please and thank you. So that's why, that's not the only reason. The biggest reason is because before I became a title examiner, before I even became a licensed title agent over a decade ago, I wanted to make sure that I did everything I could for the client. And they told me that it was important that I set that file up in such a way that that title examiner could go through it, peruse through it easily, seamlessly, clearing up any loose ends so that they be able to go through it and understand it and know what to do in terms of title clearance. Yeah, or exceptions, or maybe requirements that they'd have to write into the commitment. So that's why I do it. It's very important. It can mean the difference between your account allocation of orders and someone else's. So when we look at industry standards, failure to adhere to correct sequencing can lead to conflicting claims and clouded titles because stuff is not in order of recordation. So legal disputes over lien priority has to do a lot of times with the sequencing not being in order. Yep. So when we consistently apply these principles as professionals, we enhance the reliability of title reports, and we can streamline the due diligence process that's necessary in the real estate transaction, because it's not just all about what you're doing, it's about what everybody is doing. It's all working together, and it needs to work seamlessly. And if everybody follows the procedures fully and all the principles, then it will work in a way that complements. Okay, so we talked about going through and writing up that write-up sheet. There's a run sheet. Some people call it write-up sheet. Some people call it run sheet. In our office, we call it a write-up sheet. In the business, they call it a run sheet. Okay, we've already talked about when we're dealing with delinquent taxes, you don't just get the amount of the taxes. You find out from the revenue commissioner's office or the tax commissioner's office or the treasury's office, whatever the name of that office is that collects the taxes, you find out the amount that's necessary to bring those taxes current, to pay them in full, because there may be a per diem that's running on that amount once it reaches a certain amount. We don't know, so you want to verify that. So when you're typing your report, each section in the report needs to outline relevant details. We already talked about the grantor's name, and the grantee's name, that's identifying the parties involved. And we talked about how important it is to detail the tenancy, right? The type of ownership, the date signed, and the date recorded, right? And then any consideration amount that's listed on that deed that's in excess of $1,000. So in the search, the deed is serving as the primary legal instrument. Yeah, and it shows how that ownership is being transferred. They're depending on you to extract that information and abstract it into that, put it in that report. Yeah. The deed provides vital information regarding individuals or entities involved in the transfer of the title, the type of ownership interest conveyed, relevant dates, financial considerations. Proper documentation of the deed allows clients to establish a clear chain of title and verify legitimate ownership, while also helping to identify potential issues such as conflicting ownership claims or errors in past conveyances. So see, you're not just there to say what's there. You're there to uncover anything that may be an issue in the title's chain. Okay, I'm on page 50. I believe this is page 53 in the book. All right. I want to give everybody a chance, just in case you were wondering where I was. I'm on page 53. You can catch me right there. Okay. All right. Likewise, when we're talking about the mortgage, well, I want to make sure everybody understands what we meant yesterday when we talked about an arm's length deal. That's you know what? I don't have a lot of time left. I'm going to do that in a totally separate video. We've talked about it before, but since I'm going through this, I want to be thorough and I want to make sure that you understand it. So I'm going to devote another video to that instead of trying to speed through it in the few minutes that we have left. So when we're talking about the mortgage, we've already gone through the necessary items and information that needs to be listed in that mortgage. The mortgage name, mortgagor's name, that's the borrower. The mortgagee's name, that's the lender. And remember I said, if you see on that document MERS, or Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems, then you know that should be listed as MERS as nominee for, and then you list the mortgage company's name. Okay, that's vitally important so that it's see, these things are, let me tell you something. It's vitally important that you list these things properly, because if not, it can create some serious confusion for those that are involved. That's why you want to make sure. You want to make sure that you're following these principles and procedures. All this stuff is very, very, very important. All right. So again, MERS as nominee for, and then you list the mortgage company's name. All of that is going to be on your write-up sheet next to the mortgagee's name. I don't know if you can see this mortgage. Let's see if you can see it. All right. So if you look up here, you see MERS, MERS, and then you see the phone number. That's Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems, right? If you see that on your mortgage, right? And of course, if it's from United Wholesale Mortgage, then it's going to be most likely a MERS document. If you see that, then you want to enter into the mortgagee information on your deed, MERS, MERS, as nominee. MERS is all caps because it's the acronym for Mortgage Electronic Registration System. So MERS as nominee for, and then whoever the mortgage company is. All right, we're out of time. I'm going to stop right here. I'm hoping that this information is being beneficial to you guys. I want to slow walk you down step by step by step to make sure that you understand this. I've got a lot of people who are paying for their limited franchise agreement. And I want to make sure that you're getting everything. I know we have our sessions when we go through everything and you have an opportunity to ask your questions and I go back and answer it. And that means that a lot of times we don't get a chance to cover a lot of area because in answering your questions, we use up a lot of our time consumed with answering your questions, which is what we want because we want to make sure that you're getting an understanding. That's what those private class sessions are for. This information is just to teach you overall, in general, the information that we're unable to get to during your session because a lot of you are only meeting once a week. Yeah, your fee structure is set up for once a week. So I'm doing this to supplement that, to make sure that you're getting everything that you need because I want you to win. And I know this is an industry in which you can win. All right? You can do it. I know you can. And I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, let's do it.